Welcome to i-TUTOR Economics NCERT series. We were studying chapter 4 and in the last class we had covered till the topic short-run factors that are affecting marginal efficiency of capital. In this class we are going to start with the topic long-run factors that are affecting MEC or marginal efficiency of capital. Okay, in the long run, investment decisions depends mainly on broad and permanent factors such as population growth or technology, government policy and political stability. These factors shape the overall profitability of capital over time. So let's look at it one by one. What are those factors which are affecting this marginal efficiency of capital? First factor is rate of growth of population. If suppose think that a rapidly growing population increases or decreases demand for goods and services, they will increase demands, right? So a rapidly growing population increases demand for goods and services like more houses, vehicles, food, clothes and so on. And this encourages firms to invest more, expecting higher returns. Therefore, marginal efficiency of capital rises. And on the other hand, if there is a slow population growth, demand reduces and MEC falls. That means if population growth increases, what happens? Firms will expect more returns and therefore MEC rises. If there is a slow population growth, what happens? MEC also falls. There is a direct relation between population growth and MEC. I'll tell you an example. If India's population grows quickly, companies expect more consumers in the future, therefore they will invest more and it will lead to higher MEC or higher marginal efficiency of capital. Hope you know the meaning of the word MEC. As I had told you in the last class, what is MEC or marginal efficiency of capital? It is the rate of discount which makes the discounted present value of expected income stream equal to the cost of capital, or it is the highest rate of return over cost expected from the additional unit of capital asset. If you don't know the exact meaning of MEC, please refer the last class. Okay, so we have covered the first long run factor that affects MEC, that is rate of growth of population. What is the next factor that affects MEC? The next factor is technological progress. Inventions and innovations improve productivity and it will create new industries, and this increases the expected profit from investment and that leads to MEC rise. For example, the invention of smartphones, it created many opportunities for many industries like chip, battery and app industries, and it will boost MEC. Let's read it here. If investment and technological development take place in the industry, the prospect of increase in the net yield brighten up. For example, the development of automobiles in the 20th century has greatly stimulated the rubber industry, the steel and oil industry, etc. So we can say that inventions and technological improvements encourage investment in various projects and increase marginal efficiency of capital. Hope it is clear for you. And the third factor that affects MEC is monetary and fiscal policy. What is meant by monetary policy? It is the policy of RBI, and fiscal policy, they are policy of government. So if the government follows a cheap money policy means they will lower the interest rate. So if the government follows the cheap money policy, borrowing becomes easy because interest rates are lower, and that will lead to investment or more investment by firms, and that increases MEC. Okay, if government follows a cheap monetary policy, what happens? Borrowing becomes easy and firms will invest more. That means investment increases and MEC also increases. Okay, and what about fiscal policies? Fiscal policies are policies of government. If taxes are reduced or subsidies are given, profits will rise and it will lead to higher MEC. Okay, let me tell you an example. When RBI lowers the interest rate and the government cuts corporate taxes, businesses find investments more profitable, right? And that leads to a rise in MEC or marginal efficiency of capital. Next factor is political environment. a stable political situation. If there is a stable political situation and strong governance and law and order, it creates confidence among investors. If there is political instability or corruption or frequent policy changes, that will discourage investors from investing, and that leads to MAC fall. For example, if a country has political stability and clear industrial policies, both domestic and foreign investors feel safe and therefore MAC increases. Okay, that is political stability, smooth administration, maintenance of law and order helps to improve MAC. Remember that point, it will help to improve MAC, and if there is political instability and there is no smooth administration, that will reduce or it will lead to a fall in MAC. Okay, the next factor is resource availability. When a country has abundant natural resources, skilled labor and adequate capital, production becomes cheaper and more efficient, and this boosts expected profit and MAC rises. Let me tell you an example. Countries rich in oil, minerals or cheap labor like India in IT, they will attract more investment because production costs are lower, and that leads to a rise in MAC. Okay, in short, I'll tell you the summary of these things. Fast population growth increases MAC. Technological innovations increases MAC. Then cheap money and low taxes, it will also increase MAC. Political stability increases MAC, and abundant resources increases MAC. Okay, now let's move to the next part. Marginal efficiency of investment, or MEI. Now we are going to study about MEI, or marginal efficiency of investment. Till now we had studied marginal efficiency of capital, and now we are going to deal with the topic marginal efficiency of investment. So what does this word marginal efficiency of investment means? The marginal efficiency of investment is the expected rate of return on additional units of investment made over a period of time. In simple words, I can say that MEI, or marginal efficiency of investment, tells us how profitable each extra rupee of new investment will be. For example, I'll tell you an example. Suppose a company plans to buy new machines. The first machine gives 15% returns. The second machine gives 12% returns, and the third machine gives 10% returns. This shows as more and more investment is made, the expected returns keeps falling. That downward pattern is called marginal efficiency of investment curve. Okay, that means as more and more investment is made, the expected returns keeps falling, and the downward pattern is called marginal efficiency of investment curve. There is a downward curve that is showing marginal efficiency of investment. When the rate of interest is low, okay, remember this, when the rate of interest is low, firms invest more because they can borrow cheaply, and therefore investment increases. When the rate of interest is high, investment decreases because the rate of borrowing is costly. So MAC curve slopes downward from left to right. There is a inverse relationship between investment and interest rate. So the key idea is that businesses will continue to invest until this marginal efficiency of investment is equal to rate of interest. That's the point where expected profit equals the cost of borrowing. Now let's look at the differences between MAC and MEI. Do you know what are the differences between marginal efficiency of capital and marginal efficiency of investment? So the basis marginal efficiency of capital and marginal efficiency of investment differences are: first one, the expected rate of return from an additional unit of capital is calculated in MEC, and the expected rate of return from additional investment over time is calculated using MEI. Then what about the focus? Marginal rate of capital deals with the profitability of one more capital asset, and the marginal efficiency of capital, it deals with the profitability of new total investment. And MEC is a stock concept that is related to total capital stock at the point of time, and this MEI, it is a flow concept that is related to flow of new investments over time. Then what is the next difference? the axis in diagram, that is capital stock is shown on x-axis, amount of investment is shown on x-axis. And what is the relationship with the interest rate? MEC determines the optimum capital stock in the economy, and this MEI, it determines the volume of investment at each interest rate. And what about prices? It is based on given supply price of capital, which one? MEC. And MEI, it is based on induced change in price due to change in investment demands. That is what this table shows, the main differences between MEC and MEI. What are the main differences? It is based on a given supply price for capital. It is based on the induced change in the price due to the change in demand for capital. Then MEC represents the rate of return on all successive units of capital without regard to existing capital. MEI shows the rate of return on just those units of capital over and above the existing capital stock. Then MEC, the capital stock is taken on the x-axis of diagram, and in MEI, the amount of investment is taken on the x-axis of diagram. Then MEC is a stock concept, MEI is a flow concept. MEC determines the optimum capital stock in an economy at each level of interest rate. MEI determines the net investment of economy at each interest rate given the capital stock. Okay, so remember that MEC, it is a stock concept and MEI is a flow concept. Think of it like a tank and tap analogy. The tank, that is capital, it shows the total stock, that is MEC. The tap pouring water, that is new investment, that shows the flow, and that is MEI. Okay, hope it is clear for you. Now we are going to deal with another topic, that is multiplier. It is very, very important for UPSC prelims. So what is multiplier? Multiplier is the number of times income increases because of an initial increase in investment. Okay, it is the number of times income increases because of an initial increase in investment. In simple words, we can say that when investment increases, it will create income, and that income is spent, which creates more income, and the process continues. So a small increase in income leads to a large increase in total income. Who introduced this concept? The concept of multiplier was first developed by R.F. Khan. Okay, R.F. Khan introduced the concept as employment multiplier. And J.M. Keynes in 1936, he reformulated it as investment multiplier in terms of income. Hope it is clear. So what is the equation for multiplier? Multiplier is represented with the letter K. K is equal to delta Y by delta I, where K is the multiplier, delta Y means increase or change in income, and delta investment means change in investment. Let me tell you an example. So remember the equation, K is equal to delta Y by delta K. And suppose investment increases by rupees 100 crore, that is delta I, because there is a change in investment, and as a result national income increases by 400 crore, that is delta Y is equal to 400 crore. Then what is multiplier here? K is equal to 400 divided by 100, that is equal to 4. So this means as rupees 1 increase in investment, it leads to rupees 4 increase in income. So imagine the government builds a new road. Okay, and it spends 100 crore on workers and materials, that is investment, and the workers spend their income on food, clothes, transports, etc. And shopkeepers earn more and spend again, and each route of spending creates more income but slightly less each time because some part of it is saved, and this chain reaction continues, creating a multiplied effect on total income. And what is the mathematical equation for finding MEC? K is equal to delta C by delta I. And remember one thing, if there is a higher MPC, if MPC is higher, there is larger multiplier effect. Okay, if MPC is higher, there is a larger multiplier effect, and if MPC is lower, there is a smaller multiplier effect. Hope it is clear for you. Now let's look at the assumptions of multiplier. So Keynes' theory of investment multiplier works only under certain ideal conditions, and these are assumptions that make the working of the multiplier simple and predictable. So let's go through them one by one. First one, there is a change in autonomous investment. Okay, the multiplier works only when there is an initial increase in autonomous investment, like government spending on roads, bridges, etc. If there is no fresh investment, the multiplier processes won't start. Then there is no induced investment. It is assumed that only autonomous investment increases. Induced investment means investment due to rise in income is ignored. Okay, that means induced investment means investment due to rise in income. It is not autonomous investment. So in this assumption of multiplier, we are only calculating, or we are only assuming autonomous investment increases. Okay, induced investment, that is investment due to rise in income, is ignored, so that the chain of income generation comes only from the initial investment. Next assumption is that the marginal propensity to consume is constant. Throughout the processes, people are assumed to spend the same proportion of their income. Okay, the same proportion of their income. If MEC changes, the size of the multiplier will also change and making it harder to measure. What is the next factor? Consumption is a function of current income. That means consumption depends only on current income. People are assumed to decide their spending based only on their present income and not on past savings or future expectation. That is what this assumption says. What is the next assumption? There are no time lags in the multiplier process. That means as soon as people receive income, they immediately spend a part of it, and this spending increases the income chain, and this income chain continues without delay. Next one, there are no time lags in the multiplier process. Okay, as I told you, as soon as people receive income, they immediately spend a part of it, and the spending will increase income chain and continues without delay. Next one is that consumer goods are available in response to effective demand for them. That is, consumer goods are available. When demand increases due to higher income, enough consumer goods must be available in the market to meet their demand. Otherwise, prices will rise instead of output and breaking the multiplier effect. Next assumption is that there is a closed economy. That is, there is no foreign trade. This means no imports or exports. All spending and income circulation happens within the domestic economy. So there are many assumptions of multiplier. The next assumption is that there are no changes in price, or prices remain constant. The theory assumes there is no inflation. If prices rise, part of the increased income goes to pay higher prices instead of generating more output. That is why we assume this one. Next assumption is that there is less than full employment level in the economy. It is less than full employment level. That is, the multiplier works only when the unemployed resources exist in the economy. Because when income and demand rise, firms can hire more labor and increase output. If the economy is already at full employment, extra demand will only rise prices, not the output. So these are the assumptions of multiplier. There is a change in autonomous investment. There is no induced investment. Marginal propensity to consume, that is MPC, is constant. Consumption is a function of current income. There are no time lags in the multiplier process. Consumer goods are available. There is closed economy. Prices are constant. There is less than full employment level in the economy. Now let's move to the next topic, that is marginal propensity to consume and multiplier. First, there are many steps to understand here. Okay, step 1 is that understanding propensity to consume. That is, what is meant by propensity to consume. The propensity to consume means how much of your income you spend on consumption. That is, out of every extra ₹1 you earn, a portion is spent, that is consumed, and a portion is saved. That is called propensity to consume. Then what is meant by marginal propensity to consume? Marginal propensity to consume measures the ratio of change in consumption to change in income. That is, MPC is equal to delta Z by delta Y. For example, if your income rises by ₹100 and your consumption rises by ₹80, then MPC is equal to delta C, that is 80 divided by 100 and that is equal to 0.8. So that is what MBC called. So marginal, we had covered the topic propensity to consume, then MBC and the equation for MBC. Now the next step we want to study is that the relationship between MBC and the multiplier. What is the relationship between MBC and the multiplier? Keynes proved that the size of the multiplier depends on how much people consume. How much people consume. Okay, that is K is equal to 1 minus MBC. K is equal to 1 minus MBC. Since marginal propensity to save is equal to marginal propensity to save. What is the equation for marginal propensity to save? 1 by MBS. Okay. Therefore, marginal propensity to save is 1 minus MBC and multiplier MBC plus MBS is equal to 1 and therefore MBS is equal to 1 minus MBS. Remember this one. Okay, this equation is very much important. MPC plus MPS is equal to 1. Remember that MBC plus MBS is equal to 1 and MPS is equal to 1 minus MBC. MBC is equal to 1 minus MPS. So higher the MBC, larger multiplier because people spend more and more income circulation and that leads to greater total increase in income. And higher the MBS, that will lead to smaller multiplier effect because people save more and there is less income circulation. Okay. Now let's look at the working of multiplier. Let's use the consumption function. Let's use one consumption function, that is C is equal to 100 plus 0.8y. Now y is equal to C plus I. We know that income is always equal to consumption plus investment or savings. Therefore, we are substituting that here. Y is equal to C plus I and in that the position of C we are equating this one 100 plus 0.8y. That is y is equal to 100 plus 0.8y plus 100. That therefore 0.2y is equal to 200. Initial equilibrium income is rupees 1000 and now suppose investment rises by rupees 10 from 100 to 110. Hope that it rises from 100 to 110 and therefore change in investment, that is delta I is equal to 10 and delta y, that is change in income, is equal to 50. Hence we can say that K is equal to 50 by 10, that is 5. That means when investment rises by 10 crore, national income rises by rupees 50 crore. And this happens because the initial spending keeps circulating. One person's spending becomes another person's income. That is what this says. So what is the working of multiplier? Let's assume the government invests rupees 100 crore in a project. Say road construction, and MBC, that is marginal propensity to consume, is 0.8. So government spends 100 crore on wages and materials. Laborers and suppliers now have rupees 100 crore income. Since MBC is 0.8, people spend 80% and save 20%. So 80 crore is spent on consumption good and 20 crore is saved. And this 80 crore spend becomes income for shopkeepers and producers. They in turn spend 80% of it and save 20%. That is 64 crore and 16 crore. So there is a chain reaction. This continues like a chain. First 100, then 80 crore, then 64 crore, and in the fourth round it will become 51.2 crore and so on. So each round generates smaller and smaller increment in income. So this infinite series can be summed up by mathematically, that is delta y is equal to delta I by 1 minus MBC. Delta y is equal to delta I divided by 1 minus MBC. Okay, so the total income increases by rupees 500 crore due to an initial investment of rupees 100 crore. In short, the multiplier effect shows how an initial investment leads to a much larger increase in national income. Now, what are the classification of multiplier? The multiplier can be classified into two main types. What are they? Static multiplier and also dynamic multiplier. Oh, okay. Now, what is meant by static multiplier? It is also known as simultaneous multiplier or timeless multiplier or logical multiplier. So, this static multiplier means under the static multiplier, the change in investment and this resulting change in income occurs simultaneously, that is without any time lag. And what are the features of static multiplier? There is no time gap between investment and rise in income, and marginal propensity to consume remains constant. The economy moves instantly from one equilibrium level of income to another, and it is a theoretical or ideal concept not found in real life. For example, if the government spends rupees 100 today, the total increase in income, say rupees 500 crore, happens instantly in calculations, not gradually over time. Now, what is meant by dynamic multiplier? It is also called sequence multiplier. In the dynamic multiplier, the change in income occurs gradually over several periods following the initial increase in investment. There is a time lag between the rise in investment and the resulting increase in income and consumption. What are the features of dynamic multiplier? Income increases in the successive rounds, then reflects real life situation, that is income and consumption adjusts over time, then takes into account time lags and changing propensity to consume. For example, if investment increases by rupees 100 crore, income rises in rounds, that is 100 to 180 to 244 and so on until it stabilizes at rupees 500 crore. Hope it is clear for you. Now let's look at the next topic, that is leakages of multiplier. The multiplier effect assumes that people spending a portion of their additional income on consumption, which further increases income and output in the economy. Okay, however, in real life, people do not spend their entire additional income on consumption. Some part of it leaks out of the circular flow of income. These are called leakages. Okay, so leakages reduces the strength of the multiplier effect. So main leakages of multiplier are, first one, payment towards past debt. If a part of additional income is used to repay old loans, it doesn't go into consumption spending. This reduces the marginal propensity to consume and hence reduces the multiplier value. For example, a person gets rupees 10,000 extra income but repays rupees 4,000 of debt. Only 6,000 is spent on consumption. That is what this says. Next one, purchase of existing wealth. That means when additional income is used to buy existing assets such as land, building or all shares, the money circulates among individuals but does not create new production or income. Hence, the multiplier weakens. For example, buying an old house, it transfers money but doesn't increase output or employment. That is what this is. Next one, import of goods and services. What does that mean? If people spend part of their additional income on foreign goods or services, that money flows out of the domestic economy. It doesn't add to national income, thus reducing the multiplier effect. For example, spending on imported cars or electronics, it sends money abroad. So it is also a leakage. Then what is the next one? Time lag in production. That means the multiplier assumes that consumer goods are instantly available when demand rises. But in reality, there is a time gap between demand and supply. So during this lag, prices may rise, that is inflation happens, and reducing real consumption and the multiplier value. For example, when people get extra income but goods aren't yet available, prices rise instead of output. Next one, full employment situation. If the economy is already at full employment, extra investment cannot increase output. It only causes inflation, not real income growth. Thus, the multiplier becomes ineffective at full employment. For example, extra government spending during full employment only raises prices. Okay, now we are moving to the final part, that is uses of multiplier. The multiplier concept shows how an initial increase in investment leads to multiple increase in income and employment in the economy. It has several important theoretical and practical uses in economics and policy makings. What are those importance of investment here? Yes, it highlights the importance of investment in income and employment theory. That means the multiplier shows that even a small increase in investment can lead to a much larger increase in income and employment. Hence, investment plays a key role in determining the level of economic activity. For example, rupees 100 crore investment can generate rupees 500 crore increase in the income of multiplier, that is K is equal to 5. Then it explains the phase of trade cycle. The multiplier process helps to understand booms and depressions in a business cycle. When investment rises, multiplier increases income and leads to expansion, that is boom. When investment falls, multiplier works in a reverse and income contracts leading to recession. Thus, it helps explain the cyclical nature of the economy. Then, it brings equity or equality between saving and investment, that is S is equal to I. The multiplier shows how changes in investment lead to changes in income, which in turn cause changes in saving, bringing saving is equal to investment equilibrium in the economy. Hence, it explains the mechanism through which equilibrium national income is achieved. Then, it helps in formulating government policies. Governments use the multiplier principle to design fiscal and investment policies. By increasing public investment during recession, the government can stimulate income and employment through the multiplier effect. For example, public work, infrastructure and welfare schemes can have a high multiplier impact. Then, what is the next use of multiplier? It helps to reduce unemployment and achieve full employment. By increasing investment in productive projects, the multiplier creates more jobs directly and indirectly. So this helps the economy move towards full employment. For example, investment in housing or transport sectors creates both direct jobs and demand for related industries. So what are the uses? It highlights the importance of investment, shows how small investment change cause large income changes. Then it explains trade cycle, that is it describes expansion and contraction phases. Then it brings equality between savings and investment. It explains equilibrium income mechanism. Then it helps government policy, that is used for fiscal and employment planning, and also it helps to reduce unemployment by generating jobs and promote full employment. Now, what are the different kinds of multiplier? There are different kinds of multiplier. Multiplier shows how a change in one variable leads to multiple change in income or employment, and depending on what causes this change, there are different types of multiplier in economics. What are those? Investment multiplier, employment multiplier, then foreign trade multiplier, and also tax multiplier. So first we can look at the investment multiplier. It shows how an increase in investment leads to multiple increase in national income. Okay. How an increase in investment leads to multiple increase in national income. What does this employment multiplier means? It measures how an increase in employment in one sector leads to additional employment in other sector. Then tax multiplier means it shows the effect of change in taxes on the national income. That is, a decrease in taxes increase disposable income and consumption and hence national income. This is called tax multiplier. And finally, what is meant by employment multiplier? Foreign trade multiplier. It measures how an increase in export lead to multiple rise in national income of a country. So that's all about the kinds of multiplier. Now, accelerator principle. The idea of accelerator principle was first hinted by Aftalion, Hawtrey and Bickerdike. But it was J.M. Clark who first developed it systematically. Later, economists like Hicks, Samuelson and Harrod expanded it further, especially in explaining business cycle. So what is the meaning of accelerator principle? This accelerator principle explains how a change in consumption or demand leads to a greater change in investment. In simple words, we can say that when demand for consumer goods increases, producer invests more in capital goods like machines, factories, etc. to meet their higher demand. So a small increase in demand leads to a large increase in investment. For example, suppose a factory produces ₹1,000 cars using 100 machines. Now, if demand for cars rises by 10%, the factory must produce 1,100 cars. So to do this, it may need 10 more machines, and this causes a 10% increase in demand but a 100% increase in investment. So this is called accelerator effect. Hope it is clear for you. And there are some assumptions for accelerator. First one, there is no unused capacity in the economy. Then capital output ratio is constant. There is a direct relation between income and investment. Then investment decisions depends on the expected demand. And finally, the supply of capital good is elastic. Now, what is the relationship between multiplier and accelerator? This multiplier shows how investment causes income to rise, and accelerator shows how income causes investment to rise. Okay. So in short, multiplier works forward, that is multiplier works from investment to income, and accelerator works backwards, that is from income to investment. Now, what are the importance of accelerator? It helps to explain business cycle, it shows investment demand, it is useful in policy making, and also it explains the instability in capitalist economy due to rapid investment change. Okay. Okay, now let's imagine we are talking about how businesses respond when people start demanding more goods. Suppose people began buying more clothes, more furniture, or more cars. In other words, consumption increases. Now, what will producers do? They will try to increase production to meet the new demand. But to do that, they will need more machines, tools, or even new factories. This means more investment. So when consumption rises, investment rises by a multiple amount. This magnified response of investment to consumption is called acceleration effect. It is called acceleration effect. So let's take an example. Consumption demand increases by rupees 50 crore. As a result, investment in machine increases by rupees 100 crore. Then the accelerator is equal to 2. That is delta I by delta C. That means for every 1 crore increase in consumption demand, investment rises by rupees 2. That means investment reacts twice as strongly as consumption. Therefore, the accelerator is the ratio of change in investment to change in consumption demand. A rise in consumption demand causes a more than proportionate rise in investment demand. Okay, I will tell you another example. Let's say there is a surge in demand for ice creams in summer, and ice cream companies will not only buy more milk and sugar, that is consumption goods, but also purchase new freezers, mixers and machines to meet future demand. So a small rise in consumption, that is ice cream demand, creates a big rise in investment, that is machine demand. That is the accelerator effect at work. Okay. Now, alright, now that we have understood the multiplier, let's look at another important concept that works hand in hand with it, that is accelerated principle. Accelerator principle. Okay. Okay, now what is meant by that? Keynes and later economists observed that when people start spending more on consumption goods, producers respond by investing more in capital goods. And this relationship is measured using the accelerator coefficient. The accelerator coefficient is the ratio between induced investment and the initial change in consumption. Okay, let's say people increase their spending on consumer goods by rupees 50 crore. As a result, industries decide to invest rupees 100 crore more in machinery and equipment to meet the future demand. That is delta I by delta C here is equal to 2. That means for every rupees 1 increase in consumption, investment rises by rupees 2, and this shows that investment accelerates faster than consumption. Let's take a real life example. Imagine there is a sudden rise in the demand for electrical vehicles. To meet this demand, car companies need to buy more robots and machines, set up new production units, hire more workers and so on. So a small rise in consumption leads to a big rise in investment, and that's accelerator effect in action. Okay, so that's about accelerating effect. Now let's move to the summary part of this chapter. This chapter on consumption function and investment function can be summarized under 3 main heads. What are they? Consumption function, that is we have studied APC, MBC, MBS, MBC and so on. Then investment function, that shows the relation between investment and rate of interest, and the rate of interest plays a major role in determining investment decisions. Then we have studied multiplier and accelerator. Multiplier shows how one increase in investment leads to multiple increase in income and employment, and it is directly related to MBC and inversely related to MBS. And accelerator explains How a change in consumption leads to a greater change in investment. The interaction between multiplier and accelerator is called super multiplier, which magnifies the overall impact on income and output. So that's all about this chapter. Hope you understand. Thanks for watching. For more related contents, do like, share and subscribe.